What comes to mind for you when you hear the word emotion? So for a lot of people, there comes up these categorizing where there's these good emotions, there's these bad emotions, there's these emotions that I'm allowed to feel, there's these emotions that I have to suppress or I'm not allowed to feel, there's these emotions that I want to get rid of and not have anything to do with. And so I want to, in this video, explain to you what emotions are and the purpose of our emotions. So what emotions actually are at the basic level is that they're chemical reactions that begin in the brain. They begin in the limbic system part of the brain, and we have emotional circuits. And so just like we have a hunger circuit in the brain and a pain circuit in the brain, and they actually are all housed in the same part of the brain and limbic system part of the brain. So when we are experiencing an emotion, actually is what's happening is that there's this chemical reaction in the brain, and that chemical reaction is sending our body a signal on the sensations of it, which then just by learned belief systems, which we'll get into later, we then react a certain way. But at their essence, emotions are just a chemical reaction in the body that we experience as sensation. And they've done studies on how long it takes for the sensation or the chemical reaction of the emotion to move through our system. And it actually only takes 90 seconds for the emotion to move through our system. But it's what happens is when we're experiencing an emotion that creates like a physical pain sensation in our body, we actually stop breathing, whether we notice it or not. There's this moment where we stop breathing, and when we stop breathing, that's where it gets stuck. And so you may have heard the saying, our issues are stored in our tissues, which is very literal. Our issues are stored in our tissues because wherever that chemical reaction stopped, those chemicals get stored in that tissue. And if they keep getting stored in our tissues, they then start to become toxic. And that's why a lot of times our physical ailments are associated with our emotional state of being. It's because we're not allowing that chemical reaction to move through our system, and then they become toxic because they get stored and clogged up in different tissues. And so in this course, we're going to be learning how to experience the emotions as sensations, just as pure sensations, so that they can easily flow through our system. So then what is the purpose of emotions? We were talking about there's the chemical reaction that happens in the brain and it sends our body sensations. Well, the purpose of emotion is to give us information. So that's why there's no such thing as a good emotion or a bad emotion. And the way our emotions give us information is through sensations in the body. And so they allow us to make decisions in order, throughout our day, like how to respond to people, how to respond to ourselves, how to respond to situations, how to navigate through life. It's giving us all of this information. And so we want to honor all of our emotions so that we are getting the correct information. And so one of the ways that it was illustrated to me about our emotions is to see them on a continuum. And so I'm just going to give you an example of a few of the different continuums of emotions. So there's fear on one side, curiosity on the other side. So if we're in constant fear all the time, then, we become, the extreme is we become agoraphobic. We will not go out into the world because everything is scary. And on the very opposite end is curiosity. But if we're in extreme curiosity, then we don't have any kind of filters. Like we do anything, we become those like adrenaline junkies where it becomes dangerous, where it's like, oh, I can stand on this building and fly off and nothing will happen to me, when we know that actually, with gravity things can happen. And so when we were working with our emotions, we want them more kind of in the center, because then they give us correct information. And so when we work with our emotions and we're working with the sensations of our emotions and we're allowing them to come more in alignment with the fullness of ourself, then we get correct information. So it's the same with the other different emotional circuits that we have that are on a continuum, are like disgust. One end is discussed. One end is joy, one end is anger, hatred, rage, the other end is love. Then there's the emotion of sadness and grief, and the other end is compassion. And so, but they all need to be more in the center. They can't be on one extreme or the other, because then we're getting misinformation. So one of my favorite stories about emotions and why all emotions are important is called The Tale of Two Wolves. And so when I first heard this story, I heard it, the version that I'm going to stop it, and this is what a lot of therapists tell people, and it's not correct. So the Tale of the Two Wolves is about a Cherokee grandfather talking to his grandson about emotions, and he's explaining to his grandson that there are two wolves that live inside. One is the black wolf, and the black wolf is emotions like anger, greed, hatred, jealousy, and fear. And on the other side, there's a white wolf that also lives in there. And that white wolf is about love, peace, kindness, compassion, joy. And he said that there's always this constant war going on with these two wolves. So the little boy goes, well, which one wins? And traditionally, not traditionally, the way the story has been told, or the way it was told to me to use in therapy, is to say, well, the one you feed, meaning that you're supposed to starve the emotions of like anger, rage, hatred, and only feed the emotions of love and peace. But that's not actually the story. The story continues, and the grandfather says, well, you have to feed both wolves, because if you're starving one wolf, then it's always going to be constantly lurking around the corner trying to eat the other wolf, because it's starving, it's trying to eat you. But when you pay attention or feed both of those wolves, then they work in harmony. And so we need to be able to experience all the full range of our emotions. So when they're talking about feeding the emotion, is what it really means is allowing that emotion, the sensations of the emotions, to filter through your body so that you can get correct information. Now I want to talk to you about the frequency of emotions, and this is more of the energetic spiritual aspect of emotion, and why we need to experience the full range of all of our emotions, and how it actually raises our vibrational frequency by doing that. A lot of this information was brought through meditation for me when I was going through a really difficult time, so that I could understand. My highest self was showing me and teaching me how to understand the importance of experiencing those denser frequency emotions. So you may have seen the human emotion funnel, or the scale of human emotions. And so they've taken where they've measured the frequency of all these different various emotions. So all of our emotions have a frequency. And so some of the emotions on the lower end of the funnel are things like shame, anger, greed, emotions like that, and they have a lower frequency. And then there's these higher frequency emotions of like authenticity, love, peace, joy, have a higher frequency. And so oftentimes I've heard people speak about this, and it's like, so we need to get rid of those lower density emotions. They're bad. We're not supposed to be experiencing them. We're only supposed to be up here experiencing these higher frequency emotions. But that actually is very damaging to us, because it's creating duality. It's creating a split in our energy field, because we're meant to experience the full frequency and range of all emotions. And I'm going to explain to you now why. So our emotions are, so I was talking about the denser emotions. So if we take like the emotion of shame, and the frequency of it is very, very dense. And so if you could think of it almost like it's a hard ball, so like if it was thrown at you and hit you, it would really hurt. And so that's what it is. That's all it is that it's denser frequency. And so it's the energy of it is hitting together at a faster rate. And so it creates it to be a denser frequency. Whereas love, the frequency is more flowy. And so it's not banging up against each other. And so it's not creating this density to it. But by experiencing the sensation, so the purpose of the sensation or the frequency of those denser emotions is that it actually, when we experience that, it actually breaks up that frequency and it makes it into a higher frequency. It transmutes it into this higher frequency vibration. And so the lower density emotions are actually a gift. When we experience them, they're actually, like, say, shame. Shame is at the very bottom and love is at the very top of this frequency tunnel. And so shame, you want to think of shame as more, it's like this super, super, super condensed love. And it's so condensed that it feels hard and painful when it hits us. But when we allow ourselves to experience the sensation and the frequency of that and allow that sensation and frequency to move through our body, the frequency of it begins to vibrate higher and higher and higher, and it shifts, it transmutes into love frequency. And so the gift of experiencing whatever emotion arises within us is that by experiencing it, we have the superpower of transmuting it into a higher frequency. And that is just so beautiful. To learn more, join the course Align Neural Pathways to Activate Crystalline DNA on Udemy. The link is in the description. If you enjoyed the content of this video, please subscribe to my channel.